This is the Take a Step podcast, where we are building the next generation of professional leadership. My name is Josh Johnston, and today I get to sit down with Mr. Dale Alexander. At surface level, Dale is an international speaker, a best-selling author, but even more than that, he's one of those guys that you sit down to talk with and you just leave the conversation feeling like your life is meaningful. I get that feeling every single time I talk with them, and it makes me want to get up and go take action today. So I know that this episode will have that impact on you guys as well. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's take a step. Dale Alexander, welcome to the Take a Step podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Super glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into a little conversation. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the past couple months, and man, we have some mutual friends as well. And from what I've heard from them, from my firsthand experience, and for the audience that's going to listen to this today, is man, truly an inspirational person. Truly, that makes someone. When you leave the conversation, you feel better, you feel more inspired, you feel like you matter, and that's just because of who you are. So I'm excited to dive into conversation.
Thank you.
For sure.
Glad to be here.
Well, I'd love to just kind of open it up to turn it over to you, just to kind of introduce yourself however you think it makes sense. We have a lot of young professionals, young adults that are building the foundation of their life personally, professionally, and spiritually. So with that in mind, I'd love for you to just kind of give a little intro and open it up.
So I'm originally from South Georgia and born in Valdosta. Grew up in South Georgia, came up here for school, Georgia State, and just been a Georgian all my life. Live in Jacksonville Beach, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, probably 70% of the time. Here in Woodstock, 30, and fell in love with the study of money, of what to do with money, when I was about 21 years old in college. God just put in my heart this love of studying money. It was crazy. It's tangible. I could feel him leading me that way. And it's, to your point, he ordered and ordained my steps in my life. I'll come back to that point. But he knew what I would be doing today. Duh, he's God. But I just fell in love with that. Got out of college and went to work in the insurance financial planning world for about a year and a half in the insurance world, and left after 6 years and reaching 4 goals for that job. Started my own insurance brokerage firm doing employee benefits for schools. Did that for 27 years, sold it 4 years ago. I still run it, but and then I wrote a book for young adults about money. We'll probably dive into that. I promise. And, now I go all over the country, speak all over the world to young adults about money, and still run my company. But most importantly, married 29 years this past October to Kimberly, and 3 kids, Sophie, Grant, and Davis, 28, 26, 24. Gosh, it goes fast. And we're all in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, and just loving life, loving the Lord.
So cool. One question I always have to somebody who's spent their whole career in the world of finance. Did you start out in finance from the very beginning?
I did. I was an accounting major in college. Loved studying money. Yeah. Not money, studying it. And went to work in the financial services world as a financial planner. And I looked like I was 5 when I got out of college. I'm trying to get millionaires' money, so it was hard.
So this is perfect, because this is in line with my question. Is like, when you're first starting out, now it's like the credibility is there, but when you're first starting out, how does somebody who hasn't managed money for themselves, or like really built a financial legacy for themselves, like how do you go about building that credibility to where somebody's willing to trust you with their money?
You don't start out having the credibility of a 60-year-old that's been in the business 40 years. You don't. So I've talked to 2 young people this week, and I said, right now, it's more about the lessons than it is the money. It's more about, when I got out, I went to work for an insurance company for 6 years. I hated it. Yeah. I hated that job. But in that job, I knew I love, and y'all, when you hear this, you can apply it for however it applies in your life. Yeah. But I didn't like the job I was doing, but I knew I loved studying money. I knew the industry I liked. And so in that industry. I was doing insurance, and it wasn't financial planning, which I really loved, but I said, I'm going to study. I had 4 goals, and part of it was learning the industry that I loved. And while I hated that job, I used it as an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
It was more about the discipline of studying and doing that job well and showing up on time and doing more than I was asked to do, the things that made me successful when I did leave. And after those 4 goals, I said, I can do this better. And I was always telling myself, I would sit down with people all day and sell them insurance. And I said this thousands of times. One day I'll have my own insurance and money management firm. One day I'll have my own insurance and money management firm. And I had that goal, and I kept telling myself, I didn't really know how that was going to manifest itself in the firm that I created, but I knew I would do that myself. I knew it. And I kept telling myself that, but I stayed in that job, and I made it work. I made it fit for what I wanted to accomplish. It wasn't what I was going to do. I knew that, but I set goals for that. Wherever I was, I set goals for it. So it had a purpose. So that's why I would show up and be excited about that job that I hated, but I would be excited about it because I knew ultimately I had a purpose. And then eventually I said, I can do this better. And I left and started my own firm, never looked back. And because of that, pouring into myself and doing it myself, it changed everything about my family. It changed my grandchildren's lives.
So how long were you in that role where you weren't fulfilled, but you knew what you wanted to get
6
to?
years.
Okay.
I hated it.
I resonate with that. Like,
which is why you've got to have, and a lot of young adults, because I'm around young adults speaking about money. So I hear this all of them, tens of thousands of, so I hear this all the time. I don't know what to do. Just start. Action.
Amen.
Just action creates action. You can't sit. You have to move. Just start with something. The discipline is more important than the job, is more important than the money. Right now, stop worrying about, I'm getting off on a tangent.
No,
but the world,
you're getting off on a tangent that's quite in line with the brand.
The world is telling us it's about money and keep up with everybody else. Stop. You don't worry about that right now. Worry about discipline and doing more than you're asked to do. Studying what it is that you want to do and paying attention to your business, your craft, whatever it's going to be. That's more important than the money. It's more important than the titles, than the trips. And social media is doing this to us, just keeping up with everybody else. That's not important right now. Learning, lessons, discipline, that's more important.
Yeah. Like when you talk about action, what we talk a lot about is that whether or not the action is getting you closer or further from where you want to be, you're building the muscle of taking action. You're building the muscle of making action habitual, right? Like, and you say action creates action. We say action produces clarity. Like a lot of people find themselves stuck because they feel like they have to be crystal clear on the entire plan, the entire path before they start, when that's exactly what it comes from for us is like, if you want to find anything out, if you want to clarify any sort of plan, take action, take the first step and let the steps clarify the path. So I hear that echoed through your story.
There's a great saying, the long road is the shortest path. There's no shortcuts to excellence and to overnight success. It doesn't work that way. In health, in money, in marriage, in your spiritual life, the long road is the shortest path. There's no shortcuts to greatness. It just doesn't immediately happen. And the world is telling you that there's shortcuts. It's an easier way. It's just discipline and doing it all the time. Growth. Be more concerned about growth than about goals. There's a story behind that for me, but that I learned early on. But anyways.
No, I think the hard part about it in today's culture is I think the idea of what the long game has shortened. Like I hear 6 years doing something that you didn't like. For most people, it would be like, okay, I gave it a year. I gave it a year and it didn't work out, because a year feels like you gave it some time when you did something 6x that. So like, what would you say to somebody who is at that role, like early on in their career, where maybe they're at year 2, year 3, and they're not seeing the results, and they're saying, I'm in the process, I'm trying to embrace it, but it's not looking like it's turning out like I'd like?
Well, I'd say not looking like that as compared to whose sample size. This is what social media, this is what the world, this is what it's doing. And I study money and what money is doing to us. And it's doing just this in many ways. Well, we pace. My good friend Dr. Tim Elmore says we pace in front of microwaves today. I mean, really, we pace in front of microwaves, and our sample size. We're basing that against a world that's saying you got to have it today. You got to have it today. It's just, and you're going to have frustration if that's what you're basing success on. I just. I started dating my wife, Kimberly. I was 30 years old. I got married at 32. You tell people that today and they're like, are you kidding? No. It's got to be 23. And I listen to these young adults and they're like, something's wrong. I'm not married. When are you going to meet? Stop. You do your life. But trying to fast forward success, it's just, you just got to let it come organically. And it's good. I want muscles. I want my arms to be, when my arms grow up, they want to look like your arms. Well, you're not going to, I want that in a year. What are you going to tell me? That ain't how it works. Chief, that's not how it works. It's every day. It's showing up, right? So.
Yeah, I think there
this is good stuff.
It is for sure, because there's a lot of guys that are in that stage where they're trying to, like, I think, and we talk with them all the time. There's so many guys that feel like they're in the process. They feel like they're growth minded. They have big goals, but they, for some reason, because of all of the external influences that we have in our life today, which there's pros and cons to, but at the end of the day, it makes it, you're basing your definition of success on what the world dictates, rather than what we talk about. We have an 8-step journey that we work with our guys in the tribe, which is our membership program. But step 1 in that process is define the success. Because if you have your clear definition for success, then no matter what everyone else does, no matter what action you take, any opinion, any judgment from anyone else is going to be based on a definition of success that they may have for themselves, but it's not what you've defined. And because once you're clear on that, once you have a clear understanding of, hey, this is my ideal desired future, then it gives you confidence in the decisions you're making right now and staying in the process for a long period of time, because I'm what I want. Like it's worth more than something that could be accomplished in the next 2 or 3 years. It's worth, like, it's so big that it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years to see it come to fruition. But I think a lot of guys have just been ingrained from the time they've been, but from the time they got a phone in their hand, from the time they were able to click a button and have their food come to their doorstep in 20 minutes, from the time they could click a button and a package would show up at their door in the afternoon. Not saying those are bad things, but what is this subconsciously ingrained in a culture and a generation of people? It's that things are supposed to come quick and easy.
And when it doesn't, what does that create? Anxiety.
Yep.
And you look at what's happening today with the anxiety levels. I tell people, keep your body and your mind moving every day. Keep your body and your mind moving all the time. That is 3 steps to having success. Keep your body and your mind moving every day. Spend less than you make for a long time, and give and live for something greater than yourself. Because what those things create is hope. And when I said be growth oriented more than goal oriented, I'm a huge growth fan. And early on in my career, I was driving. When I left that insurance company and started my firm, I was driving from up here in Canton to the airport. A gentleman gave me an office down at the airport. So I'm an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours each way in traffic, at least 3 hours every day in traffic. And I watched people, sit in I-75 just in traffic, the 40-yard line, 40-yard dashes. So I watched, and I got fed up with that. And I don't know why God put in my heart, he said, you're going to grow. I don't know why, but I said, I'm going to choose growth. And so I went around, to your point of overnight success, whatever that means. I went to every library you can imagine. You all have it much easier. And I went and got these cassette series. Google what cassette is. And I went and got all these of every speaker you can imagine. Every motivation, every speaker you can imagine.
What are some names?
Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale. On and on.
Yep.
Tony Robbins, just name them, and John Maxwell. And so I went and got all these speakers, and I would just throw them in the backseat of my car. And for 5 years, I poured great growth into my mind driving down that interstate. I loved being in traffic because I was growing.
Yeah.
Every library from Gainesville to Griffin, I went to every library you can imagine for 5 years. And I'd see a new one. Oh, I hadn't seen this. And I just grew for 5 years. And you know what that creates? Growth creates hope, which is kind of the antidote for most every problem we face. Hope. When there's hope in your life, you kind of stop thinking in time frames. If I'm growing and there's hope out there, there's a vision, there's a dream. And when you have hope, it helps avoid the drift. My pastor said, well, have you ever noticed, you probably love going to the ocean. And most people watching love going to the ocean. It's fun. Everybody's having fun, right? And have you ever noticed when you're in the ocean and you're playing, and an hour later when you get ready to go back in, you're 300 yards down the beach?
Yeah.
You never realized when you were drifting, did you?
No.
But ultimately you realized you had drifted. My pastor, Andy Stanley, said, no one realizes when they're getting lost. Everyone realizes when they are lost. And so in Jacksonville, I love surfing. I love it. I've always loved surfing. And so if you're surfing and there's a drift, and this drift happens in everything in our lives. It happens in our health. It happens relationally, maritally.
Oh, yeah.
It happens financially. It happens healthily. New word alert. Health, right?
Yeah.
It happens in all areas. The drift. So how do you overcome the drift? So if you're surfing and there's a drift, you've got to paddle back through the drift. But here's the thing. If I'm surfing, my wife's probably going to be on that beach, sitting there on the beach. And that's my goal. You with me?
Yeah.
That's true north. That's where I want to end up, right? You've got to know what your goal is. That's my goal. But there's a drift always happening in everything in our lives. So how do you overcome the drift? Your dream has to be stronger than your drift. And when it is, and you know where to paddle back through, I've got to paddle through that drift to my dream. That's why you've got to know what it is that you want.
Yeah. And
then time becomes irrelevant. If I know where I'm headed, and I always knew where I was headed in business. I knew I wrote down the ideal life. I knew when I was 23, 24, I've still got it on my credentials in my office. I could have brought it. I described my life to the point of being on ski lifts with my children in Colorado, which we do every year now. I said 2 children. I got 3. I'm an overachiever, right? But I wrote that out. I wrote it out, the kind of firm I would have, how I would travel. And then I wrote down the ideal wife, 4.5 pages of the ideal wife. And if you were at a party and there's my wife and 20 other ladies in there, and you got to know them all, and you read that 4.5 pages, you'd go, that's your wife. I described my ideal wife because I knew what true north was. I know what success means in my life. I've defined it. So when you know what it is, you'll paddle back through the drift because the drift is always happening.
Yeah, we are only capable of reaching as far as our mind tells us is what's possible.
It's good.
And I think if you talk about the hope, if it's big enough, the drift becomes irrelevant.
Amen.
Time becomes irrelevant. So how many people do you know, have you come in contact with that have sold themselves short just because they've convinced themselves that that's not a realistic life for them? I think it comes back for me to a growth mindset versus a victim mindset. So I think a lot of people, if there's, they hold themselves captive from reaching a certain point because they're always looking at the problems in life. They're always looking at the forces against them, why it couldn't happen, rather than creating opportunity. Because your thoughts shape your actions, right? What you think about becomes what you act about. So if you are constantly looking at the opportunity in life because the vision you have is that big,
That's good.
then it's going to shape the way you act. It's going to shape the opportunity you look for in certain scenarios rather than the problems, which are going to keep you stuck. So I hear that echoed through that analogy. And I'd love to hear, I'd love to dive into the talk a little bit, because how long ago did you write the book?
Wrote the book in 19, came out in 20, I believe.
Okay.
Gosh, it's gone fast.
Yeah. It's 6 years now. What, give me a little just synopsis of the book, why you wrote it, and who it's for.
Actually came out in 22, 4 years. So
Okay.
I've been a certified financial planner since the early 90s. So that's not what I did. I was an insurance broker, but money is what I've studied all my career for 41, 42 years. And but I've had my certified financial planning designation for decades. And I'm always talking to my kids about money. And so November of 19, in our kitchen in Canton, Georgia, in Bridge Mill, my middle son just randomly says in our kitchen, I'll never forget, he goes, "Dad, you need to tell all of our friends this story, this principle that you talk about money." And I said, "Okay, get all your buddies together, Christmas break next month in the conference room here in Woodstock at my office, and I'll tell the story." And I told it December of 19. And kind of locally, Facebook Lively, it went viral, whatever. And so I went, wow, that kind of landed. So then I wrote the lesson out and started going around to schools for a couple of years, 20 and 21, to high schools, teaching it to senior classes in high schools. And
Free or paid?
Free. Okay. And it kind of took off. And then I wrote the book, and then the state of Georgia said, we want to give it to, we'll send it to every senior in Georgia. This was in 23. And so it went to 120,000 seniors in Georgia. And then Fox and Friends, Fox Business News, and then Fox and Friends did it. I was on Fox, and then it went nuts.
Yeah.
It blew up. And so then I started going all over the country, and Georgia actually, in fact, yesterday, 2 people texted me that their seniors came home with the book. Georgia gifted it again to all 126,000. It's grown a little bit, 126,000 seniors. And other places, Miami-Dade, Duval, and Jacksonville went to 7,000. So it's just kind of crazy now. I go all over the country, speak all over the world, Kenya, Uganda, Cambodia. And,
so when you started, like when your son asked you to tell the story, was it exactly what's in the book when you started writing?
I had no story. But yeah, I mean, this is just how it's the footprint of God, or just something that flies by you. Don't discount things just passing things that happen in our lives. Mm-hmm. There may be a reason. He said that, and it landed on me, and I did something with that. This is the important thing. I acted on a comment that he said. And Josh, it could potentially change a generation's saving and giving habits. A random comment that a 17-year-old said to me. And I was obedient with that. Are you with me? And I acted on it. I wrote the lesson, did it here. There's 50 kids there that night, pizza all over the place. I've got it recorded. And I listened to the prompting in my heart. And I think this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. I know without a doubt this is what I was created for. There's no question about it. It's funny how there's no question about it. And so I said, I'm going to do this. And it's changing. I think it will change a generation's saving and giving habits, this lesson.
How confident were you in your ability to speak before that?
Okay, it's not fair for you to ask me that, because listen, when I say my steps were ordered, if I told you the tangent point, the paths of my life, I'm a Jesus follower. I'm a Christian, but I just think God knew. He just ordered my life. At 21, he said, "You're going to start studying money. You're going to start listening to speakers. Man, I've been listening to speakers since I was 25 years old, pouring into listening to their inflection, and whether it's a semicolon or a comma, and studying it and writing lessons and doing Sunday school classes and speaking at conferences since I've been 27, all to prepare me, right, to forge the iron that would sharpen other iron. Man, I've been doing this since I was 21.
Yeah.
That this is the moment that I was created for. So when people go, well, how easy for you to say, man, how easy was it for Rory to win a second Masters when he started at 2?
Mm-hmm.
That dude just made $4 million in a weekend. No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
Come on.
He made $4 million from hands that were bleeding when he was 3. It's not how life works. But I've been preparing for this moment decades ago. And when what's success is when opportunity meets preparedness. And this is just what I've prepared my whole life for. Did I know it? No. And a random comment from a 17-year-old could potentially change the world.
Mm.
I don't know. Butterfly effect, man.
Yeah. Like, there's a good question for so many people to ask is like, what could I be doing right now that there's not a clear answer for at the moment, but it could be setting myself up to be ready for when something comes my way. So like the speaking when you were in your 20s, it was probably fun, but you probably didn't have a clear understanding of what that was leading you to.
Not at all.
But because you chose to still do it anyways, when your son came to you with that comment, you were ready. And because you were ready, that one video that you still have, that one night where you gave that talk to 50 kids, it took something off because you had done years of preparation, not knowing why God had put those opportunities in your path, but you still chose to say yes to them. So like, what are those opportunities? What are those, what is in our path right now that we may be avoiding, but could be setting us up to be ready for when something comes knocking?
So I believe we're each given a gift.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got a gift. There's something in each of us, and that's different, that's unique, right? I know what mine were, and but I was obedient to listening to the promptings in my life. I knew I loved studying money. So I just started studying. Most people are unaware of just the stuff going on around them in their life. They're unaware of what they really love to do. They don't sit and think about what's really important. I wrote down my ideal wife. Ideal life. Success to me is having the affection and admiration of my wife, the obedience and love of my children, the pride of my parents, and the respect of my friends and colleagues. I know where I want to end up. And all these things that I studied from these speakers, Josh, all these things that these people were saying, if you believe it, you can achieve that. Oh man, that's just a bunch of cheesy stuff. It's all true. The things that they said, if you believe it in your mind and you work toward it, you can achieve it. I believe that. I've manifested that in my life. But you've got to be aware of the things that are around you in your life. Most people just go through life completely unaware. Mm-hmm. What is it that lights you up? Something lights you up. Something. And your gift may be a smile, how you play a guitar, rapport building. There's some gift we each have. I believe that, purpose, the greatest purpose we have is the passionate pursuit of our dominant gift in service to others. Passionately pursuing our dominant gifts. I loved speaking. I loved it. I loved studying money. I didn't know where that was going to go, but I started writing Sunday school lessons. For me, I was doing I was a junior high youth advisor in church. That was molding me for being on stages speaking to high schoolers today. I loved studying money. I wrote a book about money today. That was back when I was 20. I loved playing guitar. That made me comfortable being in front of people and being uncomfortable in front of people, right? And all these little things were little things that were honing ultimately what my gift was, which was writing a book about money for young adults in the United States of America and the world.
Yeah.
But you've just got to be aware in life of everything, how we're treating our spouse, how we're managing our money, what I'm doing healthily every day, with my body. Am I reading? What am I reading? What am I studying?
I've read through the book, and it's fantastic, and it's amazing taking complex insights and making them very simple. And I wanted to ask you if this might be tough for you. You've probably been asked this before, but like if you could take one concept from that book and say, if you apply this today, your life will change, what would it
Without
be?
a question, without a doubt. Very quickly, let me tell the story. Yeah. I wrote the book, The Talk About Money, A Young Adult's Guide to the One Decision That Changes Everything. I wrote it for young adults, really kind of 16 to 20. It applies to everybody, but 16 to 24, yet to get their first real job. It applies to everybody, but that's kind of what I wrote it for, before you get your first real job. Because when you get your first real job, instead of taking and spending all 100% of that paycheck, stop and only spend 70% of it. Make 70 your 100. Make 70 your 100. You don't have a standard of living established yet. And whatever number you accept as your standard, 70%, that becomes your reality.
Yeah.
Watch, in 2 weeks, you'll never know 70 is not 100. It's just your 100. You're at 0.
Yeah. The world's different than what you have right now.
Sure. Just make 70 your 100. And the most important, by the way, the other 30, take 20% and invest it, and take the last 10% and give it away. I don't care who you give it away to. Give it away. We'll come back to that point. Mm-hmm. Make 70 or 100. Here's the most, this is why people fly me and my wife all over the world. You have one shot to get this right. Because if you take 3 of those first job paychecks, spending all 100% of it, you will never, you say you will, but statistically, you will never back down to 70. It's over. And you will live life like most of America, which is broke, stressed, angry, and anxious because of the weight of money. Getting money right is not hard. There's just a lot trying to make it impossible. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, what's one thought? I would say this: spend less than you make for a long time.
Spend less than you make.
For a long time.
Long time.
Investments don't make, this isn't my quote, Russ Crossan, one of the great financial planners in the world, told me one morning, he said, Dale, investments don't make people wealthy. Living on less than you make makes you wealthy. This is not hard. Spend less than you make. But it's almost impossible. But it's not hard. So I'm trying to get a generation, that's why the state just sent it to 126,000 young adults who've yet to get their first job. It's not hard. And the world's trying to make it hard. The world's trying to make it impossible. It's not hard.
Talk about the 10% giving.
Come on. Here we go. So how I approach this from stage is if I say, if you know anybody dealing with loneliness, anxiety, depression, right, anger, part of the reason is, do you know what our phones, I'm holding a phone. Do you know what this phone is telling me to do? Get more for myself. It's telling me to keep more for myself. Josh, this is telling us to hoard more for ourselves. If you're listening to this, I'm holding a phone. This is telling us that the way to success and happiness today is by serving ourselves. It's the world's greatest lie. And if you know somebody who's in young adults in school are typically too young to feel this way, but if you know somebody who's sick and tired of being sick and tired of, man, I don't know what my purpose, what is my reason for, why am I here? That part of that answer is found in flipping the script and becoming second and serving others. Josh, the mind doesn't allow itself to feel hopeless when it's giving hope. It's impossible. You were built. This is why it's got to be God. Nature doesn't work this way. You were built with a reward system in your brain. You've done something good for people, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Now, doesn't that give you a good feeling?
Extremely.
Come on. Do you know that's chemicals that get released in your brain? Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, epinephrine. These are chemicals that get released in your brain when you do good things. Mm-hmm. What if your whole life were built around dropping grace bombs on Everybody who comes behind Johnston, everybody who comes behind you and your family just gets grace dropped on them. Your life can't be the same.
Yeah.
Everything about life gets new perspective when you start giving. Dale, you got to give me more than that. You got to give me more. Okay, here's the second. Hold on. Okay, I get it. I got to have more. Here's the second reason that you give. It's the law of reciprocity. You can't outgive what you outget. In my life, I'm not gonna say it's gonna work like this for you.
Yeah.
But in my life, the more my wife, my company, my foundation, the more we've tried to give away, Josh, the more we've seen come back. I'm not gonna say it's gonna work like that for you. Here we go. There's a trick you don't understand. See, when you start giving, what you think you want to get when you start giving, and you get people, well, if I give 10, I'm gonna need to get 12 back. Whatever 10 and 12 are. Let's say it's dollars. If I give you 10, I'm going to need to get 12 back. Here's the trick you don't understand. Most people don't understand. You do. Well, if I give you 10, Josh, let me give you 12. No, Dale. No. Look, give it to somebody else because it's going to grab your heart, and everything about life gets new perspective. What you think you're going to want to get back completely changes. It's the law of reciprocity. It's how the world works. I love Publix. There's a Publix right up here. I love Publix grocery stores. It was started by, I love it. Maybe that's weird. Maybe I'm weird. Do I have to turn in my man card? Look, I love it. It was started by a man named George Jenkins. Listen, when you go in the service counter, you're going to see a picture of an old man in a suit. Underneath, it's got George Jenkins, Lakeland, Florida. Okay. He's an extremely wealthy man, and he gave away millions. By the way, Publix is like the Chick-fil-A of grocery stores. I don't know if you knew that.
For sure.
And he was a great man, and he gave away millions of dollars. And he was once asked, Mr. Jenkins, how much would you be worth had you not given away so much money? And he said, probably nothing. He owed everything he had to what he gave away because he understood the law of reciprocity. Dale, you got to give me more. You got to give me more. Okay, here's the selfish reason that you give. Because when you start giving, even at your age, everybody, Josh, is going to want a piece of you. Because everybody wants to be around a giver.
Yeah.
They're going to ask you to breakfast and lunch for your advice. They're going to ask you to serve on the boards of their companies. They're going to put you on planes and take you to places you can't imagine. Because givers are rare, and it's impossible to feel hopeless when you're giving hope, and everybody's going to want a piece of you.
Come on, man. What would you say to someone who says, I'll start giving when I have enough?
Okay, that's it. What do you say when somebody says, I'm too tired to work out? Doesn't the working out create the energy? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it create the energy? It's backwards. Yeah. I'm too tired to work out. That's why you work out. And the biggest thing that keeps people from having what you want, what keeps me from, I'm a runner, I'm a morning runner. And the biggest thing that keeps me from being the best runner I can be, it's the first step of going from discomfort to comfort. There was a great boxer, Marvin Hagler, and he said, it's hard to do road work when you're sleeping on silk sheets. The hardest thing for me getting in shape is the first step of going from comfortable under the covers to pulling them back and stepping on the floor. The first movement of comfort to discomfort. Because if I stand up, Josh, I'll run. But it's the first movement of going from comfort to discomfort. That's the hardest stumbling block to me having what I want in life. Anything. And I would say, I can't afford to give. Then give. That's why you give. That's when you give. Nothing will change if you don't step outside of your comfort zone. Amen. I don't care. Here's how to challenge. Now, I'll say this. I can't give. Okay, here's a challenge. Take this challenge. If it doesn't work, I'll give you a steak dinner. Everybody listen, I'll buy you a steak dinner. This doesn't work. This is 100% guaranteed to work. For the rest of your life, the next first dollars that come into your house, for the rest of any new dollars that come into your house, the next raise you get at work, the next bonus a spouse gets at work, garage sale proceeds, the car loan you pay off, that's new money coming in your house. Wouldn't you agree? Mm-hmm. From now on, for the rest of your life, never take more than half of it. It's new money.
Yeah.
You're not living on it right now. Never take more than half of it. So if somebody out there is saying, I don't have money to give, okay, here's the challenge. The next new dollar that comes in your house, let's see where your heart is. Is this a financial thing or a heart thing? The next new money, don't take more than half of it. Save some of it and give some of it. And you'll start building giving into your heart. I'm done with letting the world tear us apart and have everybody living for ourselves. It's not working. It doesn't make us happy. We know that we were given a purpose on life, and that God-given purpose to serve others with our dominant gift is what it's about. And when we don't, we know there's something off. So if you can't afford to give, that's when you give.
Yeah. I love it. Tying it back, I'll circle back to that because you just mentioned the self-serving side to our culture. I believe that depression is the most self-centered state you can be in. And I don't say that, I say that recognizing that there are people that are going through significant trials mentally, and I understand that.
Amen.
At the same time, the key to getting past it is why do people stay in that state for so long? It's because when you're in that state, you're constantly focusing on me. How do I get better? How do I get past what I'm going through? How do I get more happy? When, in my opinion, and I hear this echoed through what you're saying, is the biggest antidote to depression is service, because it gives you purpose. It gives you meaning. It gives you value because you see that you're having an impact on something greater than yourself. And a lot of people keep themselves stuck because they're constantly focused on getting themselves out of their own hole rather than helping other people get out of their hole. And they might say, well, I'm not capable. Well, have you tried? Who do you know? How has God designed you? Like you said, what fires you up? What lights you up that you can take and have an impact on someone else's life? But people that are in that state never take action on that because they're so focused on themselves. So yeah, I love that you talk about that because it's so true. There's so many people that need that. Man, they hold themselves captive because of what they're telling themselves.
Yeah, when we focus on ourselves and focus more on ourselves, that's not the answer. That's actor Jim Carrey had a great quote one time. He said, "I wish everyone could get everything that they want in their life so that they could realize it's not the answer." Isn't that a great quote?
Amen.
It's not. I think Truett Cathy of Chick-fil-A said, "Money makes a good person better and a bad person worse." If you're a giver in life and you like serving and doing others and you make more money, you're going to use it to do more for others.
Yeah.
If you're a getter, a taker, a hoarder, and I want my own or I don't care about you, and you make more money, you're going to use it to take more from others. And the world is telling us to get more, to keep more, to hoard more, and that's the way to success and happiness. And it's not working. I say in the book, Hollywood is full of miserable rich people. It's not the answer.
Yeah.
We know that there was something greater than ourselves and that we're to serve others. But just start with just holding a door open for people. Buy a cup of coffee. You know, people ask, I don't know where to give. I did a speech one time at a national sales conference, and at dinner, a young guy, 30s, 40, came up to my wife and me, and he said, I don't know where to give. And in the book, I say this: what breaks your heart? There's something on your street, in your world, in your community, in your life, in your family that breaks your heart that you wish could get solved. There's something you wish could be better. And take your resources, take your time, your talents, your treasure, take one of them and just start giving. But the antidote, well, I don't have the money to give, is like, I don't have the energy to exercise. The exercise is it's the answer. The work is the answer.
Yeah. You've talked a lot throughout this conversation about what you get to do in the world of speaking today. How have you taken the story, the talk that you gave when your son asked you to give it to that group of kids? How have you evolved that into a career where you get to travel around the world and promote this message of helping another generation of kids learn their finances better than anything else?
So going from kind of writing the lesson and just going around and giving the lesson without a book, then I did the book. It kind of elevates your, I guess, people calling you when you get a book. It just seems to help. But it's just, one of the things that it's done is I've had my brokerage firm, but it's given me a bigger purpose.
Yeah.
I truly think my job is to change a generation's saving and giving habits, where people, I hear the word hope a lot after I speak in a high school. Kids come up and talk to me. They say, I've never had hope before. This is hope in my life. Mm. But just the passion that it gives you to take your story and you look back at, this is really what I've been built for. And I look at all these paths of my life and I just laugh going, that's why you had that happen in my life. And I see what God was ordering my steps to do. And, but I was obedient to studying those promptings in my heart of what I was drawn to. I was obedient to listening to that and doing something about it. I could have said, man, I love studying money. I don't really, but not done anything about it, not studied it. And I just like money. I don't like money. I love studying what to do with it. Or sure, I like playing a guitar. Well, I went and used that to do junior high youth advisor. And, I just was obedient to the calling of what was the dominant passions in my heart. You got to pay attention to that stuff. It's not there by accident.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love to pivot the conversation because that made me think of something really important for guys that have been in the role that they're in for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and it's comfortable. Like they have security, they have stability in what they're doing, but they do feel that whatever that is for them, they do feel that thing that lights them up, that breaks their heart, that is something where they know they could actually go out and have an impact right now. But there's a lot of, whether if it's real or whether if it's self-inflicted risk that they're convincing themselves exists. What would you say to somebody that's in those shoes? Because I've experienced it, and I know there's thousands, millions of other people out there that are in that, where they know that there's something they would like to be doing, but they're choosing what the comfortable path, because it's something that they know is going to generate an income. It's something they know that's going to provide for their family. It's something that they know they're not going to have to wake up and try to figure something out when there's no guarantees. What would you say to someone in those shoes?
Well, there's a lot in this question. First of all, I hate the term side hustle. I hate that. Because if you're going to dedicate yourself and go do something, I just think it takes 100% focus on being excellent at what it is you want to do. Having said that, where you are in doing what you do, you can learn to be aware and start studying, what is that thing that I'm drawn to? What is it? First of all, you've got to define what it is. Most people are just, I want to go into X, or I want to sell X, or multi-level, or, and they, sell insurance, I want to sell real estate, and they kind of 25% it. And I was flying a plane one time in South Georgia. I love flying. I was in somebody else's plane, and he let me sit in the left seat. And I was taking off on this grass strip, and there's these pine trees down at the end of this runway. Remember that? And I'm kind of had it throttled. I didn't have a license. I had a throttle. And he goes, "You got to go." And he just jammed the throttle in fast and pulled it up. And we go over getting close to these trees. And most people kind of never give it majority throttle. Mm-hmm. They just kind of go about 30% throttle in most of their life. And they never really get to where you can back the engines off, get to cruising altitude. Have you ever noticed the jet gets up to a point, and then you can hear the engines pull back? Yeah. But it took getting up there first. You got to get on it, right?
Come on.
You got to get off the ground. You got to get up to altitude, but it takes some energy. It takes fuel. It takes getting on it to get up there, and then you can let off. And most people, I call it the boring zone in money. Most people just hardly ever save any money because they don't see it doing anything. The wealthy just know what's coming, and they keep saving because they know compounding is going to take off. And most people will never get through the boring zone because they haven't studied what's out there. They don't know what's out there. And that applies in most places of our lives. Go back to your question that you asked. I would say start being aware of the prompting in your heart. What is it that you love? And you got to figure out a plan. You got to write down, what do you want? And when you write down what you want, and I told my wife when I worked for that insurance company for 6 years, and I was going to leave and go start on my own. Let me tell you something. It's going to be hard. This is going to be hard. And we had just started dating. I said, look here, girl, you about to hook your wagon up to the mayor of Brokeville, because I'm about to be the mayor of Brokeville, and I'm going to try this, and I can do this. I can do this better. And I just knew I would do it because I'd studied, I'd prepared, I'd written it out. Don't go into this haphazardly.
Yeah.
But I had studied and written and had done this. So wherever somebody is, you can begin that lesson, but you don't just come out and have immediate success. That's not how it works. And you'll have to suffer. And the world is going to want you to stay where you are, or even better, going on trips and doing all. Stop it. The world's going to have you caring about what other people think. I heard a great quote the other day. It said, you will never win in money as long as you care about what other people think. You will never change what you're going to be doing and do what you want to do as long as you care about what other people think, because it's going to make you step back. That's just part of the cover charge to get in the club, Josh. And as long as you care about what other people think and what social media, I got to keep up, it's just not going to happen.
Yep.
You've got to say, I don't care, because the end goal is bigger than that. And the long road is the shortest path. There's no way around that. My arms don't get to your arms on the short path. You don't buy that.
Yeah. No, I think there's so much value there because I think when people think about what that thing is, most people think about the destination. Most people want to take that step because of what they feel like the life in 10 years will be, rather than making a decision based off of what they're going to do tomorrow, what their day-to-day is going to look like. We talk about success being more about a process than a destination, because if you can find passion and joy and hope in the process and your day-to-day and what you get to wake up and do on a daily basis, rather than the result you hope that generates,
this is so good.
Then that's the life of success, right? I thought about this the other day in a conversation when I was at a conference on Monday. For me, success is, are you excited about Monday?
Oh, that's so good.
You know?
Oh, that's good.
Because if Monday is the start of a new week,
so
and the vast majority of our country gets the Sunday scaries, where it's Sunday afternoon hits and they start getting anxiety going into Monday. But Monday is the start of a new week of life we get to experience. And if we step into a new week of life and we're dreading it, like we're dreading getting to wake up and live life.
Man, this is your life.
Yeah.
And you want to go through life dreading it?
Yeah.
Here's to your point you just made, and that's so good, by the way. You'll hear people talk to somebody, well, then they go, why do you still go to work? Man, if I hit it, if I sold my company for what you sold, I'd never go back. Then you'll never have that kind of company.
Amen. You
will never have that. It's not about the money. So if you would ever say, man, if I had that, I'd quit work. That's not how. You've got to be, to your point, you would probably, what will you pay people to do? I pay people, I kind of don't have to now, but I used to go and give out my books. I'm paying people to go speak. It costs me money to go speak. I've gotten to the point now where that we don't, but
yeah.
But I would go do it and pay you to give you my books out and pay to go do it. Yeah. I'm paying you to go speak.
Yeah.
But I love it. What would you pay people to do? What makes you dumber than a suitcase? Here's my story. That's a crazy question, isn't it? I went to the Ryder Cup in Detroit, Michigan years ago. And I go that night to leave, Sunday night. I go leave, and out on this Detroit airport, there's this pod of all the gates of these planes leaving. I'm not proud of this, but I'm sitting there reading a financial book, and I'm reading this book on money. Remember, I love studying money. And I'm reading, and there's all these people out there waiting to get on these planes to go back home from the golf tournament. And I walk up, and our plane was late, and I said, do you know where the plane for landing? She goes, it's in the air. It's not here yet. I go back and sit down. Josh, I'm reading. Listen, I'm embarrassed to say this. I look up, and Everyone on that pod, that wing, was gone. The workers were gone. Everyone was gone. I'm reading a book. I was so captivated. This is just idiocy, first of all. But I was so, I'm not proud of it. I was so consumed with what I was reading. How many times do they call your name if you don't show up at a gate?
3 or 4 times.
Josh, how many times do they call your name?
Yeah, a lot.
My plane, my suitcase is headed back home. I'm dumber than a suitcase. So here's the point. What makes you dumber? Everybody's going to go, I'm not that dumb. But what makes you dumber than a suitcase?
Yeah, the principle's so good.
Now to a point. What makes you so consumed? You won't be this bad, but almost, that you lose track of time.
Yeah.
You forget to eat. Okay. People will pay you to do a job. They'll come watch you to do a calling. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
You have to get paid to do a job. You'll pay to do your calling.
Yeah.
What is it you would pay to do?
Yeah. I think tunnel vision. Like, right? I think like what's the one thing where everything else is non-existent. You're just zeroed in on the one thing that matters to you. For me, the turning point moment for me where I felt this was at the beginning. I started the brand Take a Step when I was still working my corporate job, and I was passionate about the message, and I still was kind of refining what that was. But again, action produces clarity, right? So it was just start and let it, like, just do the thing you love and let what that's going to turn into get clarified along the way. So spent 2 years just kind of doing content, started the podcast, started a newsletter, and was just putting out content, building brand. And then at the beginning of 2025, it was, okay, well, how do we actually, like, what's the business model going to be? Like, how do we actually turn this into something? And the first thing for me was like, I love community. I love bringing people together that embody the same growth mindset. So for me, it was, let's throw an event. Let's have a bunch of people come out. I knew some people in the leadership space that would come in and speak. So I'm like, let's just bring some guys together that want to come. And that event, I remember it was scheduled to be a 3-hour event. I think it was 5 hours. And I was like, I apologized at the end, but it turned into one of those things where I was just like, I had no track of schedule. I was like, and then I came home to my wife and I was just like buzzing, like just so like full of energy. But it was one of those things where I left that day and I said, if I could do more of this, life would be pretty good.
Come on.
You know, and it's one of those things where I remember literally doubling the time on the schedule, completely like all over the place with the time and the schedule and everything like that, because it was so locked in on the passion that I had for what was going on and the message and the people being together. And I love that analogy. It's just like, what will you zero in on with so much focus to where nothing else matters? And
Marcus Buckingham, Simon Sinek, Andy Stanley, they talk about these things. Kevin O'Leary did something the other day, a post where he said there's signal and noise. Signal is everything that gets you exactly what it is that you want. Signal. It's the path to exactly what you want. Noise is everything that takes you off of getting done exactly what you want. And he goes, most people go through life at 30, 35% signal of what they really want. They're distracted by the noise of the world, social media, all this stuff. And he likened Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. And he said Steve Jobs was about 80% signal. He was about 80% focused on exactly what he wanted and 20% noise. And he said Elon Musk is 100% focused on signal, what it is that he wants out of life. And he lets no noise get into what he wants. I think that's probably too much, but to the point is the average person lets most things of the world kind of distract us from ultimately your tunnel vision point. And but what is that thing? And you can kind of start thinking, if I were going to be dumber than a suitcase, what's one thing that could potentially take my attention that much? And you may go, I have no idea how to make that a deal at anything. That's not the point right now. What the point right now is, what's the thing that you could get tunnel vision on? Start thinking about that. Start writing that down. And then you'll begin to start having clarity about how you turn that into an actual going concern.
And here's my question, and then I have one more, and then we can wrap this up. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. In my opinion, I don't think the problem is identifying what that is. I think the problem is getting people to ask that question in the first place. I think a lot of people go through life passive, where they don't have the self-awareness to identify that they are just living in noise, that they aren't like they don't try to figure out what is the signal for me, because they're too comfortable waking up every day and going through the motions because it's good enough.
You know how to solve that? There's 4 things you need: a passionate discontent and a powerful vision.
Okay.
You will never have success long-term in anything unless you have 4 ingredients: passionate discontent and a powerful vision. Until you get mad enough, Josh, if I just don't like something, I'm just mad. But when I get mad enough, I'll do something about it. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have any money. Okay. You're not going to do anything about it till you get mad enough. But when you go, I'm fed up with being broke, I'm done with being broke, I'm going to start figuring out how to change it. But watch this. If I get mad enough, I'll make a change. But until I have a powerful vision, if I don't know what I want that thing to do for me, I'm just frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm mad, but I don't know what it's for. In money, we need to save money. Why? You know, if my wife came to me, we need to save money. Why? Because we just need to save money. Okay, we start saving money. I'm sitting there going, why? This is not fun. I'd rather have a boat. That's more fun than this. But watch this. If you said, we need to save money. Why? Because I'd love for us to be able to spend the rest of our lives getting able to travel, be with our grandkid. Now I've got a powerful vision. Let me give you an example. You got, say, somebody that's having a tough time stopping cigarettes or drinking. Well, I know I need to stop smoking cigarettes. If somebody said that. Okay, well, I don't want to stop smoking cigarettes. That's fun to me. But if the doctor comes to you and says, Josh, if you smoke one more cigarette, you will never see that granddaughter walk down that wedding aisle. Josh, I'll stop that day. I'll never put another one in my mouth again. Are you with me? I got a powerful vision. I was mad and I had a powerful vision. And most people, you've got to, what is it you're just fed up with? And until you're fed up and you have a powerful vision, you'll never change anything long-term, in my experience.
You know who Jay Shetty is?
I've heard that name.
He has, I forgot what the name of his podcast is, but he's a young dude, but was a monk, and now he does a lot in the personal development space. He has a great quote. He says, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, that's when you change.
Come on.
When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, that's when you change. So I have one more question I'd love to ask that I love capping off these conversations with. If you were to have somebody in front of you that's in that state where they're going through the motions, where they're waking up, they're living a passive life, what's one piece of advice you would give to them to say, hey, this is your first step to experiencing a life where you can wake up and live on purpose every single day? Because most of my generation is in that state right now. Most of my generation is waking up, whether they want to lie to themselves or whether they promote themselves on social media to be living this happy life where they're doing great and doing everything they want. I firsthand know so many people that are going through that. I'm waking up, I'm going to do the Monday through Friday. And then once Friday hits, like, now I'll be able to live my life. And then once Sunday afternoon hits and the Sunday scaries hit, then I'm going to dread back going into Monday. What would you say to somebody who's in that state?
Get some time alone and start writing out what it is you want your life to look like. I believe that writing things out manifests something in our minds, and it's tangible. And you've got to, first of all, you've got to have a goal to work toward, right? I mean, if you just start on a trip, you've got to know where you're going. no one realizes when they're getting lost. Everyone realizes when they are lost. Well, the way to not be lost is to know where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you want to do? But you've got to create action in your life. You've got to act, and you've got to grow. Unless you grow, you're going to be the same person in 5 years that you are today. You've heard that saying, except for the people that you meet and the books you read. You're going to be the same person in 5 years as you are today. And don't wake up 5 years from now. There are people right now going, I wish I'd done this 5 years ago. I wish I'd done this 10 years ago. Well, 5 and 10 years is out there. Don't get out there and say, I wish I'd done that 5, 10 years ago, that I wish I'd done that 5 and 10 years ago. Something's got to change. Sit down and just start writing out what it is that you want in your life.
Yeah, that's my greatest fear in life, is getting to a point and asking the question, what if? There's another guy that I listened to a lot of his stuff. He says, I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried.
What discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. John Maxwell had a great quote. He said, I'd rather reach 90% of my potential with failures along the way than 10% of my potential with a perfect record.
Man,
it's good stuff.
It's amazing. Dale, this has been a great conversation.
It has. You're really good questions. Yeah. Hard questions. Good stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a rating on whichever platform you're listening. And always remember, no matter where you are on your growth journey, every mile begins with a step.